Around the room so we can see there's more than 10 people in here. Everybody wave, smile at the camera, say hey. Okay. My name is Galen Edwards. I'm an emergency medicine PA as well as a paramedic. He is nice enough to let me deliver a block of instruction on hemorrhage control. I'm doing this lecture for Lenore Community College for their instructor methodology class. At the end of this block of instruction, you will be able to properly select appropriate hemorrhage control measures and then apply those same hemorrhage control measures. This will be evaluated in the most recent NREMT bleeding control and shock management checkoff sheet. Which, are you guys doing all of your NREMT checkoff sheets in this class?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. So this will give you guys a leg up. Every good lecture has to start off with at least one inspirational video. Is anybody offended by blood and or profanity? Good, because EMS may not be for you. This is the initial surveillance footage from the house. Officers responding. Do we have sound?
Go slow and don't hit those fucking railings. Okay. Nope. They're gonna run. Get off the fucking ground! Get off the ground now! Fucking no! Don't fucking no! Get your hands up now! Get her! Watch her! Watch her! Watch her! I'm dying! Oh my god! I'm dying! I'm dying! Oh my hands up! Oh my god! I'm dying, son! I'm dying! Don't do that! Oh my god! I'm dying! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh shit! I'm dying, son! Hold on!
Okay, now it's tourniquet. That's a lot of blood. That's a bad day, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys notice, you can see when we pass out the tourniquets later, that tourniquet is actually on upside down. That said, this guy just got shot at. His heart rate is probably 180. I think we can give him a pass. But part of this is to show you just how much people bleed and how hard it is to manipulate stuff under stress. You see he's still trying to put it on upside down. Again, he just got shot at, so he gets a pass. I don't know where my sound went. And that's the other second officer footage. So, again, this is all about hemorrhage. That was a lot of hemorrhage, right? From a motivational quote, "It's Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes" by my girl Taylor Swift. Disclosures, both SWAT tourniquet and RAT tourniquet were nice enough to send me some tourniquets to evaluate for this and for my PA school project before. I have no conflict of interest. They're both garbage. Don't buy them. These views are entirely my own. And if your instructor says something different than I do after I leave, he is the man. He is the one that grades you. Listen to him. Okay? Some of this is military. It may not be how you guys are graded. Types of hemorrhage. The answers are up on the board, but you, what's the type of hemorrhage? Yes, you. The answer's right there.
Arterial.
Arterial. Okay. And how would you describe arterial bleeding?
A lot of blood.
A lot of blood. Okay. It's bad, bright red, spurting, heavy bleeding. Mud Brothers, what's another type of bleeding?
Capillary.
Capillary?
It's oozing, like a red rash.
Okay. Cameraman 1, what's another type of bleeding?
Venous.
Venous, and how would you describe venous bleeding?
A lot.
A lot? Okay, it can be.
Pouring, yeah.
So venous is kind of the middle. If you like sever your femoral vein, that's bad. If you sever one of the smaller veins, it's not as bad. So venous is kind of the middle ground. Hemorrhage control, again, my background was military and police. I tend to think of things as like escalation of force. So your initial measure is going to be direct pressure, followed by elevation. Some places still teach pressure points. Some places have gone away from pressure points. I haven't seen them hurt anything. So long as they're used right, your instructor can clarify if he wants you to use pressure points for your checkoff stations or not. And then the final big boy option is tourniquet. Bear in mind, like that first video showed you, you always have to use direct pressure elevation before you go to a tourniquet. Should that officer like try putting a Band-Aid on that thing first?
Could have tried.
He could have tried. Why? He could have tried. Probably wouldn't have worked that well, so he was entirely correct. Skipping straight to tourniquet. You don't have to do everything before you go to tourniquet. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If it looks really, really bad, it probably is. Go ahead and get a tourniquet on it. So, our first level to try to stop bleeding is direct pressure. One of our, I don't want to say pet peeves, but pet peeves from the ER is we will get in grandma who nicked a varicose vein, and there will be like 18 inches of 4x4 pads on a bleeder that's that big. How much pressure, by the time it's soaked to the first, the second, the third, the fourth, how much pressure do you think is still being applied to that one little bleeder? Not a lot, right? Everybody grab your arm. Do it, grab your arm. This is an interactive class. How much pressure are you applying? A fair amount, right? Now take your thumb, your index finger, and press the snot out of it. You're getting a lot more pressure on that one spot, right? So if you got grandma with a varicose bleeder, those things bleed. They've got all that pressure backed up, and it's just pouring out. And you take your whole hand and put it over it, you're probably not going to stop it. You're going to have to come see me in the ER, and we're going to give her a couple $1,000 bill. If you take one finger and just hold that sucker, she may not have to come in. We're happy to see her. But again, pressure is just your force over area. The more force we can put over the smallest area, the better your odds are of actually getting control of that. The prior instruction, I was always taught, don't remove blood-soaked bandages. They've kind of gone away from that. Again, I'll leave that up to your instructor to say if he wants to have you guys practice removing blood-soaked bandages or just keep stacking them up. After you've applied your direct pressure and it's put bleeding through, you need to secure it with a dressing and a bandage. Again, don't make it into a tourniquet unless you're intended to do so. You can put so much pressure on a pressure dressing that you turn it into a tourniquet, which is not necessarily what you were trying to do. Extremity wound packing. We'll go ahead and start throwing some stuff out. These are just a couple different things. Everybody's seen Croats before, right? You can throw some of these in the back. I just borrowed those from the hospital. Here's a bigger roll of Curlex. These are emergency trauma dressings. They're also known as Israeli dressings. They're old, and it looks like a squirrel got hold of them in the military context, but you're free to open them up and play with them. You would use this over top of your actual wound dressing. Here are some vacuum sealed Curlex, the big, like 3-inch roll of Curlex that's floating around the back. This is the same. It's just vacuum sealed, so it's easier to pack. And then we'll pass out the combat gauze too. So, with wound packing, direct pressure only works if you're able to put that pressure on the bleeding vessel, right? So if I have a penetrating trauma going through my arm, and I put pressure on the outside, the blood vessels aren't on the outside of my arm, right? They're deep down. We need to actually be able to get those things of Curlex or those things of combat gauze, or whatever your hemostatic agent is, onto the vessel where we need to get the pressure. To do that, you take that roll of Curlex, you pull it from the middle or from the end, either one. Can you throw me one of those? These are really, really small from the hospital, but the principle is the same. You can pull it from the middle, comes out looking like a little tampon, and you just pack that sucker into the wound, and you can see how you're actually getting stuff inside that's going to put pressure on that bleeding vessel and get it stopped. When you have packed everything in that you can, the rest is on the outside, then you secure it with a dressing like that, an A-strap, whatever you have. I always like pictures. Does anybody know why that guy isn't treating that casualty?
Probably
because there's somebody behind.
Shot at. What if I told you he was treating that casualty?
He got his knee on it.
He has his knee on the femoral. I'm a big boy. Even when I was in the military and I was in shape, I was a big boy. If I have 80 pounds of body armor and everything else on me, plus all my weight, on my knee, on your femoral, do you think that's a pretty good tourniquet? At least while I'm still covering my area and while I'm getting to your tourniquet? You see this kid up there? I have to have time to get to your kid. My knee is not the best, but it will buy me time and buy you time. So he's covering his area of responsibility, but he's actually doing a medical intervention. Which brings us to the tools of the trade. We already have them kind of floating out there. Your hands, your finger, your knees, your body weight, you are a medical device, especially for hemorrhage control. These family trauma dressings that are floating, you guys can take them out of the package if you want. Like, the squirrel really ate them. I'm not going to use them on somebody. Quick clot, HemCon, combat gauze, cell locks. There's all sorts of hemostatic agents out there that help you clot better. And then don't forget the A-straps that you carry. A-straps make awesome pressure dressings. And if we have time at the end of the lecture, we'll show you how to do a combat diaper for a junctional hemorrhage through the femoral. Tourniquets. This is my passion. Community Attack and Combat Casualty Care through the Army Surgeon's Office. Every year they meet and they reevaluate stuff. The main approved tourniquets are the soft T and the soft T wide, the cats, and then the Ranger ratchet. I don't think anybody actually uses Ranger ratchets. Do you know what tourniquet you guys carry in this county? They look like this. That. So this is a combat application tourniquet. You guys can pass them around and play with them. They're made by North American Rescue Products. This is a soft T. The cats are really nice because they fit flat. I carry them in my cargo pockets. They're lightweight and they're fairly cheap. These are a little bit more expensive. They're metal. They're heavier. This is one of the original ones. When you guys pass it around, we actually had one of the medics brought in somebody to the ER with one of these on, which is awesome. I love it. He did a good job. The screw right here is attached to your buckle. It slides through right here. The problem with that is if you don't tighten the screw down and you are moving the patient like onto the hospital gurney or into the back of the medevac or whatever, if you have this tourniquet all the way tight and you hit that screw when you're moving the patient, your tourniquet just became useless. Does that make sense? The newer versions of this don't have that screw, which is good. But I have seen at least one paramedic bring in somebody with one of these on. The screw wasn't tightened. Patient didn't die, but that's a really, really high cost of failure if you don't know what you're looking at with these. The cats are a lot simpler. Those tend to work better for legs. We also have improvised tourniquets. Have you guys ever done improvised tourniquets in class? You know what I'm talking about? How to make your own tourniquet? How would you make a tourniquet?
We used our belts.
Anybody else? What else can you use for a tourniquet?
Duct tape.
All right. I have not seen that one, but I'm sure you can fix anything with duct tape. So.
Yeah, I think it'd work if you like crinkle it up.
Yeah. It's improvised. And then again, the rats I'll pass out. It is a bungee band. The advantage of these is that they are really, really small and you can carry them in your cargo pockets. They are supposed to be wrapped around, creating a 2-inch band and then clipped into place up here. I know I have to work out more, but my arms aren't that big and I already can't get 2 inches of band around. I have no way to cinch it down more, and I'm not sure how much compression I'm going to get on his leg back there. So again, these were free. That is my disclosure, but I wouldn't spend money on them or trust them to save me or my friend. You can take that for whatever it's worth to you. And that's the soft T and the soft T wide, the original one that's floating around. That's the screw that we were talking about. The new one doesn't have a screw, it has a little hook that you can see right there, so you don't have to worry about it coming off as much. Combat application tourniquet, again, is the one floating around. It has the windlass and self-adhering band. You can see that tourniquet applied above that amputation. Improvised tourniquets, supposed to use a 2-inch wide band. Put it above the wound that you're trying to stop. Wrap it around. Put your windlass across the middle of it. Tie your windlass in place. Spin it until it stops, kind of like the commercial ones, and then secure your windlass. Improvised tourniquets. Does anybody see anything weird about this photo?
Is that a paintbrush?
This is a mechanic on a mechanic convoy, had a really bad day, medic was killed. This guy That is a recovery strap. That is a triangle bandage. That's a paintbrush. They tried very hard to save their buddy. This is a post-mortem photo. The guy's dead. The real-world failure rates of improvised tourniquets is 40 to 60%. The real-world failure rate of the Calmite application tourniquets and the soft tourniquets is 0. You can train pretty much anybody to use those and use those effectively. And this is an American that died. I don't like that. It's personal. So, if this is your profession, carry the right tools, whatever that's worth to you. But if, like, you're at the Boston Marathon, and so you have, they have a pressure dressing, and this guy actually used a bunch of shoestring. That's what you got. Is what you got. So, I was always taught when you first evaluate a patient, you break them down into sick and not sick. If the guy is sick, you look sick. You probably lost a lot of blood already. If it's what you got, it's what you got. So, there's 2 ways that you can apply a tourniquet. Your hasty tourniquet, so like when that officer first rolled up. Do you guys know how many gunshots were in that leg?
Probably 1.
1, 2, 3, I have no idea. There's blood everywhere. I couldn't see squat, and I watched it half a dozen times so I could sound smart when I was up here. So in that case, you want to apply it, we call it high and tight, like a good haircut, right? You get it up as high as you can and as tight as you can, because I don't know where he caught rounds. Even if he caught a round down in the calf, I don't know if he caught a round up in the thigh, all I see is blood everywhere. So you put it up as high as you can. If you're going up your escalation of force, if you see like a partial chainsaw injury, and you do your pressure dress, and it's just soaking through your pressure dress, and you're like, I gotta put on a tourniquet, and you know that it is your only injury, and it's well defined, you can do a deliberate tourniquet where the whole area is exposed. You go 2 inches above, which is like 3 fingers or so, not over a joint. If it's going to go over a joint, you gotta put it up above the joint. But again, that is only if you can see everything. We've had a problem before with tearing type injuries, chainsaws, blasts, car crashes with lots of shear factor. You have a guy that comes in and you can see the amputation right here. So they put the tourniquet up here, 2 inches above, right? What they didn't look at was the whole back half of the leg is just torn out. And there's other big blood vessels bleeding back there. Because the guys on the ground, all they saw was the front. They didn't see him missing all this up in here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, again, if you're going to go 2 inches above, make sure you know it's 2 inches above. Look at the whole wound. Whenever you're done with your tourniquet, you always secure it in place. I use a lot of tape. Tape is cheap. And then you time and label it. Everybody carries a Sharpie on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
No? No, I don't always carry a Sharpie. So if you're trying to write the time on the patient, and you don't have a way to write the time on the patient, what can you use?
Their blood.
Their blood. Blood's everywhere, right? Right across their chest. After this, on the skill sheet, you're going to see properly position the patient, whether he wants you to have them laying down, legs up, recovery position, whatever that means to him, high flow oxygen, hypothermia prevention. Does anybody know what the lethal triad is? Anybody? So, hypothermia, acidosis, and coagulopathy. Each of those feed into the other one, and your patient bleeds out and dies faster. It's a circling the drain effect. Each of those makes the next one worse. We can't really do a whole lot to fix acidosis, coagulopathy in the field. We can't keep our patient warm so their clotting factors actually work. And you're supposed to verbalize the need for rapid transport. Not on your checkoff sheet. In the real world, make sure you don't just fix the bleed and stop, because they may have other injuries, right? It's really easy to say, oh God, his leg's gone, but what else is going on with him? We have a couple minutes for practice, and then there's going to be a group test at the end. You're my volunteer. And just remember, all bleeding stops eventually. I'm glad somebody got the joke.
Huh.
So you know what time we are at right now? Like from when it actually started?
19 minutes and 34 seconds.
Beautiful. I just want to make sure we have time to practice. So here is the National Registry, bleeding control and shock management. First step, what's your first step for everything? It's on the board if you don't remember. PPE. Scene safe, PPE, right, for everything. You are going to apply direct pressure to the wound. I have applied direct pressure to the wound. The examiner is going to state the wound continues to bleed. Then you're going to apply a tourniquet, and then I'm going to say the patient is now exhibiting signs and symptoms of hypoperfusion. At that point, you're going to properly position your patient, verbalize the administration of hypoxygen, initiate steps to prevent heat loss in the patient. That would be covering them up with a space blanket or something like that. And then say I'm going to rapidly transport the patient. Your critical criteria. Have you guys seen checkoff sheets like this before? Okay. You guys know to read the critical criteria like 14 times, right? That will fail you. And you guys can read those just as fast as I say them. So, anybody have any questions up to this point? I mean, we got 3 tourniquets out there, right? That's a group of 4. That's a group of 4. That's a group of 4. So, every group take a tourniquet.
Who's our tourniquet?
Yeah, that's a group of 5, sorry.
I was about to say there's 5 in this.
So, somebody pick a victim, somebody pick a responder. Make sure you have a
I'll be a victim.
Or you can just verbalize the curl.
Here, you want to get this? I'm going to be a victim.
You're going to be the victim.
Yeah. You want to hold this?
Chino's dying.
No, I'm dying. I'm the victim.
Alright, here you go, Chino.
Where's your... You're down there, and you're the one.
So we're going to do by the numbers. What is step number 1?
PPE, sing safe.
Sing safe PSI, right? Okay. What are you going to do next? They're bleeding from their right forearm. Everybody's bleeding from the right forearm, okay? What's the first thing you do? Direct pressure.
I don't know how to get
Okay?
I've
Does
never
everybody
used one
apply
of
the
those.
direct
I always
pressure?
use a triangle bandage and a ball cap ring.
Beautiful. That looks like some awesome direct pressure. Unfortunately, the wound continues to bleed.
I'm sorry. It's gonna hurt, but I have to do it to save your life, okay?
Sure. Go ahead and put it on.
I guess I'm bleeding. Go away up.
And you can try that if you want. I don't care that much about it. You can try it.
What?
I'll see. Those don't really work.
Yep, there we go. That's up. Ah, okay. Bring down.
I don't like this tourniquet at all.
Yeah, I don't like one myself.
Keep turning. So it won't turn anymore.
How many straps? Did you put it from both sides?
Sorry.
He's fine. Tell him to shut up.
This I have
All right, I'll give you
just like a cherry did.
You still feel a pulse down there?
She's actually messed up too much. Keep trying to have it set up. That's where you pull it off. Got it.
You don't feel regular pulse?
Oh, that doesn't look in there, doesn't it?
Then it's
My hand is getting cold.
Oh, shut up.
Two hands use 2 buckles. A lot better. Look at buckles.
Okay.
You're trying to put it on and you're bleeding and you're having a really bad day.
Really?
You pull on it.
That's-
You just put it on. Does that make
You're
sense?
right.
But
I ain't
first,
gonna-
you use 2 hands.
Wait.
If you guys have already gotten to that point, you can change it up and have multiple people put the tourniquet while they're catching back up over there. Sure.
What y'all want to know?
About these?
There's one of those on there.
I just don't know.
That one on me. I done cut my